Hey, what's going on, guys? Christopher here. For those of you who do not know me, I am the owner of House Hunters US. We're a real estate marketing company that helps homeowners sell their homes at no cost to them. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. Some of these videos provide you guys information and get you guys kind of started on who we are, what we have done. Been wholesaling for about 2.5 years. I've been in real estate just a little bit longer than that, a couple months. Since I have started, we have done over 1.2 million in gross revenue. It took me about 5 months to break six figures a month when we first started this back in July. Long story short, we made a lot and I lost it all, and I had to kind of redesign what we did and kind of start from the bottom. But the reason I was able to restart over after losing everything was because of the skills and knowledge that I had acquired from the months prior. Let's kind of jump into my first section. I'm gonna try to build these videos out one by one, try to break them into segments that is attainable for you guys, and hopefully take action. So let's go ahead and move on. First question I always had when I first started, I remember I was asking my local mentor, was how do you find leads? How do I know who to talk to? What do I do? Solve that issue for you really quick. There's a lot of places to go get leads out. There's a lot of data out there. You can go at several places. You have batch leads, you have prop streams, you have REI Sift, you have all the way up to these premium data providers that I was using before, like Investor Machine or Dantic. It can get very pricey. I have spent anywhere from $100 a month to $30,000 a year for data. Data is the same. It's really at the speed you get it. And data does not turn over how you think. People like to think that they need to pull data every month and they're going to get new people. That's not the case, guys. Finding that most of your database, it's about contacting them at the right time. The amount of times we have locked up contracts just because we got in front of them at the right time. So I don't want you guys to worry so much about your guys' timing, where you get data from. Instead, I'm gonna send everybody to this website right here, PropWire, or that way. What is PropWire? PropWire is a free data system created by, I want to say Jerry Norton. Don't quote me on it, but I believe this was actually made by Jerry Norton. So if it is, big shout out to him, man, because it gives everybody a chance to get data without having to lose an arm and a leg. So one of the most important things about when you are trying to pull data is the misconception that people want to just pull bulk, or they want to go and pull as much as they want. As much as I would love to tell you that that is true and that would work, I'm going to tell you probably not. I would do instead is I would sit down and I would figure out a buy box for your guys' self. So let's just pretend you guys live, I'm gonna base it off Oklahoma City where we operate. I now know in Oklahoma City, if I want to wholesale deals to my investors off market, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna have the best chance of doing that with homes that are under 120,000 in Oklahoma City. So with that being said, I know I'm gonna show you guys right now on PropWire now how to very specifically break down your guys' buyer box. So I will tell everybody before you even get started, decide what your buyer box is. Do you want to look for? For example, if I just go type in Oklahoma County, Oklahoma County is going to give you a lot of data, a lot of data. I'm gonna be honest. There's areas here that I do not want. I don't want to waste my marketing dollars, my marketing budget on homes that's probably not going to work for me. For example, 443,000. I'll be honest. Me trying to wholesale that to an investor, not going to work right now. If we were talking about our retail buyer program, absolutely we can work with them, but I'm assuming most people here do not know what retail is or how to list it, so I'm not going to go into it. I can make another video at some point in the future if you guys want to learn about what it is to novate. Correction, let me not just say novate, because everybody has this idea that novation is listing on the MLS. That is not what novation is. Novation is just a fancier way to say an assignment so the banks are cool with it. So just so you guys know, novation does not mean that you're listing. It's the type of agreement you sign between the homeowner and your end buyer. About is your buy box. So when I'm working around, right, and my question used to be, how do I find people that want to sell? How do I know what area? How do I know people want to sell? It's pretty simple. You guys have thousands of these softwares out there that tell you exactly that. Now, what I would challenge you is, if you don't know now, is go find out what is some of the biggest areas in your city that people want to buy. You guys still haven't got into that yet. Really simple, guys. Go to your Facebook group and just type in real estate and type in your city or your state, and I promise you, you're going to find plenty of groups out there on Facebook. You can go there and ask that group, hey, where do people want to invest at? What cities? So you can have at least a starting point. And let's jump into it. And the reason it is super important to pinpoint your buy box is that whenever you're starting to generate leads, when these leads come in, guess what they're going to do when you focus down your buy box? It's going to seem like every lead is a closable lead. For example, we've had a big problem in the past where we would, market out to Jones out here. I'll be honest, the possibility of me trying to wholesale a deal in Jones, slim to none. So I probably don't want to pull leads from over there, right? Right. So first, figure out what city, zip code you want to target. You can target county, you can target city, you can target zip code. The more defined that you get, the easier it's going to be to find the prospects you want. The bigger, the more data you get. So a little bit harder. Mess around with it on your end. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in here, and we're going to leave this as blank lead types, property. I only want to see single family homes. Estimated value. This is huge, guys. Now, this is going to be different for every single market. What is something that you can figure out on what your price might be for your market? Well, let me tell you, you can just come here to Zillow, and let's just be honest. Super, super easy. You see all these for sales right here. Figure out where most of your houses are priced at. We do 200,000 and there's still a lot. So what if I do 200,000? You know what, let's go a little bit higher. Let's do 210,000. We'll take off this one, the maximum. So you can see how many listings are left. Okay, you see that there's a bunch of listings over here. You can also come down and you can say 600,000, 200, just kind of figure out where you get a decent idea. But for me, I know, guys, in my city, most of my wholesale deals that are going to be selling off market are going to be under the 100 to 120,000 range, right? So when I come to home evaluation, that's exactly what I'm going to come do. I'm going to come here and I'm going to type in estimated value 100,000. Now you see we're down to 33,000 people. Dope. Much easier to manage this. Let's see if it'll allow me to do 120. Perfect. It did. So we got a couple more. Next, bedrooms. How many bedrooms do you want to see? So I'm going to say, nope. We'll just say 5+. We will say 3+ bedrooms. Honestly, anything over 3 bedrooms, I'm fucking probably looking at a mansion. I can't do anything with houses of that size. So let's say, actually, I'm doing it wrong. So I'm going to say 2+. I want to see houses with, I was using it wrong. 1+, 2+. Dope. It might give me more filters over here. No, it didn't. Okay, cool. Not a problem. So we'll just say 2+, 1+ bathrooms. Because I don't want to see any houses that are 1-1s. Property filters. This is where I'm going to come down. Number of stories, building size. So I might do here 2,500 square feet. Because anything really over that, probably not going to be a wholesale deal, nor do I want to look at it. Year built. I would like to do 1940 for me personally, just because anything older than that is usually pretty hard to sell. Plus, we're talking about a lot more older homes, so I don't want to go that old. I'm going to come here and I'm going to do 2010 for a year bill. You know what? Even that might be a lot. So let's just do 2000. I'll keep it vacant. Any lot size. I'm going to take off the lot size. I don't want that here. Building 0. Here, you know what? I'm also go here and I'm going to type in 800 square feet because I do not want to see anything under those 800 square feet. Owner occupied. Any. I'm going to do individual. The reason I do individual, guys, is because when you're skip tracing, much easier to skip trace individuals versus businesses. Now, if you wanted a lot more data, by all means, you can pull business. If you're skip tracing for like cold calling and texting, you want individuals. It's really hard to skip trace businesses. So just a little tip there. Now, if you're doing like direct mail, it doesn't really matter because you just need the mailing address. But for now, I'm going to leave it as individual. Owner occupied. And same idea, guys, here. Like if you have way too big of a list still, you can still come down and break them down by owner occupied. No. It's probably not going to have that many, 6,000. What does non-owner occupied mean? It probably means it's a rental, right? So if you want to talk about who might be the most motivated to sell, well, tired landlords. So that's how you can fix them out, right? You can come in, you can hit no and get the non-owner occupied. Absentee owners, you can say out of state, you can say in state. So again, you're breaking down who you're marketing to. So when I think about this, I think about who would be the most motivated to sell their homes versus all these people. Tired landlords, people who live out of state, right? They might have more motivation. So that's the way I look at it. I always like to ask myself the question, who is more likely to sell their house? So again, I'm gonna leave it as any. Years of ownership. Here, you guys can mess around. I'm gonna start with 6 years. Let's be honest, the person who bought a house last year, the chances of them wanting to sell this year, very slim. Not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying it's slim. So years of ownership, minimum 6. You can go all the way down to like 4, but we're gonna do 6. Tax delinquent year, I'm not messing around too much with that. We can come here again. Estimated value, do 100,000. Equity. So if I won't go into equity so much of what it is, but equity is how much equity you have on the back end. So if I have a house that's 100,000 and I have paid off 50,000 of that loan, I have a 50% equity, right? So the people that have more equity, guess what? They're probably more inclined to sell their home because they have equity to sell. So if you wanted to look at all cash owners, you just put it all the way to the right and you're going to get your list. 5,000 people. So these are the people who own their house straight out. They don't have any mortgages on it. Now, if you want a bigger list, you can come down and you can move this back to 50%. You can do 75%, right? You play with it until you get a sizable list that you're okay with. But for now, we'll go ahead and we'll leave it at the 75%. Last sale price, I really don't care about here. Last sale date. Here, I can do the same thing. I can come down and I can say, 2020, January, beginning of the year. So this was the last time it was sold. So again, I don't want to see the house that just got sold last month, last week, last year, because the chances of them wanting to sell again are probably slim. So we'll hit that, and now you see we are at 7,000. That's probably because of our owner filters down here with the years of ownership. MLS status, I really don't like to see MLS, so I won't change it so much on there. So now who we are. We have a list of 7,000 people. Not bad, guys. What are our options to do now once you have this list? A couple options on what we can do. You can either direct mail these people, you can text them, you can call them, or you can go and door knock them. I'm going to break it down very shortly on what are the different types that you can do. So big list is probably going to be good for mass cold calling and mass texting because you can talk to a lot of people very quickly. Are you going to want to go drive to 7,000 houses? Probably not. Well, I'm going to come down and I can draw a square here and only target these leads. So if I did want to do driving for $1, right, I can do a much smaller list to handle that. So I'm not having to make this massive list from the side. You'll come here, you'll select them all, you'll export them. I'm not going to go through all that because I'm not here to teach you guys how to use PropWire. I'm just here to teach you how to market for your list, on how to do your buyer's box. And now the question, like I said before, is, okay, what do we do with the list now? Perfect. Well, that's what I want you guys to ask. What do you want to do and how much is your budget for marketing? There's a lot of different options that you can do, varying from the cheapest to most expensive. Now, everything's going to cost you. Now that you've got a list, you have to skip trace. That's the means of you actually going and pulling a phone number for that mailing address. So I personally use Versium to go and skip trace. I love Versium. They're the cheapest that you're going to be able to find. But the caveat to it is that you have to buy their yearly subscription. It's not like most batch skip tracing where you can go load up $20 and get skip traced. So you kind of do the math there. If it's something you want to work with, I'd probably go spend the $3,000 to go get skip tracing at 0.01 cents. Or you can come pay 15 cents on batch. So if you have a bigger list, it might be worth looking into Versium if you budgets on what you want to do. So we'll go into my next topic is you have a couple options that you can go with marketing. You can either text, you can cold call, or you can direct mail. Cold calling and texting are going to require you to skip trace to get a number. Cold calling, you can have it cheaper and you can call straight from your phone. But if you're single dialing a list of 5,000 people, it's going to take you a long time. And in this industry, guys, the thing that's more important, more than anything, I promise you, is going to be volume. The amount of effort that you guys do to try to close some deals. So if you guys are only dialing 20 people a day, the chances of you actually finding something are going to be slim to none, right? You guys are going to have to make a lot more dials, more like 100 reach outs, get in front of people. So if you guys want to cold call, I would look into a cold calling system. I use Call Tools to do all my cold calling. That's an option, right? A multi-line dialer. You want to be able to call this list a lot and very quickly. Like I said, you can also one dial on your phone, and that's completely fine. Just know that you're not going to have the same amount of output as you would with one of these dialers. So keep in mind, texting, you can always go pull up a texting software like Launch Control and do mass texting. I will be completely transparent with you guys. I have been using Launch Control for the last 2 years, has been my best ROI till date. At one point, our ROI on texting was about 14% or 14x. We were making a lot of money for Launch Control. I'll kind of give you my year-to-date example right now. So we have made $168,000 to date from Launch Control, and we have spent around $10,000. Now, what's the downside of mass texting? Mass texting will generate you a lot of leads, but it is a operational drag, because if you're, I don't know, for example, we were making 50 leads a week. It takes a lot of people to call those 50 leads a week. So I ask you, do you really want to sit there and manage 50 leads a week? If you don't want to, right, you have to get someone in place to call those leads. Then you have an operation. Now you have a team. Now you have to see their sales number. Now you have to train. It becomes a lot harder. There's a lot of operation added to a already complex process, what we do. So just keep that in mind. Texting is good, but you're going to have a lot more busy. I'd call it busy work, because I know Launch Control is going to take me 100 leads to generate a contract where I can go direct mail and convert every 6 leads, right? So where would I prefer to waste my money? If you ask me personally, I am now all about inbound. I'd much rather spend money on inbound and know that I can handle a higher quality lead. Let's talk about inbound, the pluses and the cons. So inbound, I'm always going to say it's going to be the best way to generate leads, because I know for a fact that I can go send 5,000 mailers a month and get at least a 0.5 response rate back in my mailers. So that means for every 5,000 mailers that I'm sending, I am getting at least 50 dials in. Doesn't mean those are 50 leads. So lies. It is 50 leads, because that's what we track them as in our Salesforce or in our CRM. They are, anybody that calls in is going to be a lead, but we're not going to call them a net lead. Because out of those 50 people, and be honest with you, about 35 to 40 of them are going to be people that tell you to take me off the list. The other 10 or 15 people might actually be interested, and that's where you're going to focus your time, right? Is talking to those 15 people, because out of those 10 to 15, I can guarantee you there's going to be at least a 2 to 3 contracts in there if you stay on top of it. So what is the downside for direct mail? Direct mail, guys, cost a lot, and you're not guaranteed to see returns. And you need to send out a lot to get a proper response out of it. There's plenty of ways that you can do it. You can mess around on different avenues. I personally use REI print mail to send all my mailers. I don't have an example of the mailer anymore. I have some in the kitchen. I wish I had them right here. I actually use an offer card. So all an offer card is, I'll give you a quick validation. I'm using this postcard right here. Here's what I send out every month, and I get really good responses on it. We're getting on average like a 0.6 response from all our mailers. You guys can come to REI Print Mail, keep it super simple, upload your list, and send them out, and you have your mailers going out. But like I said before, guys, direct mail, the way it works, it's about volume. If you're only sending out 100 letters, don't expect to get a lot of response out of it. What's 0.5 of 100? That's 0.5. It's not even a call. You're not going to get that much responses. So you do have to spend quite a bit to get the responses you want. I would say as much as your budget can handle. If you can send 5,000 mailers a month, perfect. Send 5,000 mailers a month. If you can send 1,000, try to send 1,000 and see how you get it. Again, you're hoping to get a 0.5 response. So you'll get 5 calls to 10 leads out of 1,000 mailers. You might be able to convert. We see conversion for us is like 1 out of 6 leads. So should be, in theory, a contract in there for you. So kind of an idea to mess around with, right? What I want to do. The other thing that's a downside with direct mail is that you're not always going to see success on the first month. You have to be willing to spend money for at least 2 months before you see a return. I understand that's not easy for everybody because you're sitting there, you're like, I'm spending money and I'm not getting a return. But what I want you guys to keep in mind is that you might spend $4,000 sending direct mail, but you just need one. Most of the time, guys, I promise you, you just need one to close. Our average right now is 16,000. So if I spend 4 to make 16, that's a pretty good return if you ask me. So just keep that in mind, guys. Just because you have to spend money to make money, regardless what you guys do. So keep that in mind. Cold calling. Cold calling is another great way to handle everything, but the downside about cold calling is not as expensive. I actually pay $100 per one license, and you pay $2 per number, so you can go buy like 30 numbers so you don't spam out your numbers. It's about $60, so you're probably looking at a total of $160 a month to go set up on Call Tools and be able to dial. What is the downside to Call Tools? It's data management. The hard thing about Call Tools is you have to be able to keep a very clean management of data. You're going to be calling these people very, very quickly. So if you have a list of 5,000 people, you want to be able to find out what are correct numbers, wrong numbers, and you want to be able to track that and know that each time you're going through these cycles, you are filtering out every single one of these numbers. And that's the whole idea of cold calling is you're not going to cold call them once. You're going to cold call them 5 to 10 times. You might start off with 6 numbers per people. For example, there's 5 numbers here. Your idea is to call all 5 of these to either mark them as wrong, DNC, no answer, right, or ultimately a correct number. So each time you're going down, you're filtering out this list smaller and smaller and smaller. I use REI Sift for data management. This is what allows me to keep very good track of how I cold call. Who have I called? How many times have I called them? What's a correct number? What's a wrong number? The ways you're able to do that is right here. You see cold call attempts, direct mail attempts, SMS attempts. It's really easy to keep a track of. So you know that, hey, I've called these people 5 times already, 10 times, right? After a certain point, you're not going to get much responses anymore. And that's when it's time to either jump to your next one. Either, hey, it's time to direct mail after you try to cold calling them, or it's time to try to go knock on doors. I'm not going to get too much into REI Sift right now, guys. Like I said, they have their own Sift Dojo. They have their own YouTube, their own videos that you can go learn on what they do. Just know that I use REI Sift to manage my data. So I want to know my connection rate for Call Tools. So that pretty much means how much are people answering their phones. Real simple. You're going to go 2 agents. So my agent has answered 66 calls. I'm going to divide it by total, 1,005. That means my person is connecting at a 6% connection rate. Not bad for cold calling, guys. Anything above like a 4 to 5% is usually pretty good. Now on my Salesforce, I'm connecting at a 20%, much, much better. But again, you're mass dialing over here, so those numbers are going to be lower. So that's just one way to keep on track of it. If you know you have good numbers, is usually by your connection rate. We've talked about the 3 different ways on how we can market. The last one I said before is you can always go and driving for dollars. Put this list and then it will give you your driving direction. So I've given you guys 3 different ways to go and market. I've personally said it myself. If I had to restart everything that I know now, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm going to be doing direct to seller with direct mail or PPC because it is less of an operation, especially if you're just starting out alone. You don't have a full team. You don't have a full CRM. You don't have all these fancy tools. I just want to focus on the people that I know are going to convert the highest. So this is what I do. I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not saying you have to, but what has worked for me and what I would do myself is I would honestly do direct mail. I would send out a list of 5,000 people because I know for a fact that of those 5,000 people, I'm getting 1 contract. guarantee that I'm getting one contract. But that's also the data I use. So that's another thing I would tell you guys. Go split test data. But like I said, most people are usually going to have the same data. That's how you guys can get started in the simplest, cheapest way. Prop wire, you skip trace depending what you guys want to do. I hope this helps. I hope I made it a little bit easy. It's my first video trying to do this, guys. So let me know if I missed anything or anything else you guys would like to see from my end. Again, I use REI print mail. I use launch control. I use call tools. I use REI sift, Versium for skip tracing. You can use batch skip tracing. You can use batch leads to pull leads. You can use prop streams to get leads. You can go to prop wire to get leads. And the last thing I would recommend is if you guys are doing direct mail, please, please, please come get you a tracking number. So that way you're able to track exactly how many leads you're getting, and you're able to tell if my campaign is working or not. If I send out 5,000 mailers, then I can come back and I can see how many people called me, and then you kind of understand how to manage that. Like, you guys, on my next video, you guys take care and peace.